Right, week 16, Ravens versus the Niners. So San Francisco is favored by 5.5 on this one. So both teams are 11-3. Both teams have secured a spot in the playoffs, which worries me when it comes to making a prediction. Uh, San Francisco has clinched the conference, I believe. Meanwhile, Baltimore has at least secured a spot in the playoffs. That notwithstanding, the numbers on this are saying that this should be a dead even matchup. So the 5.5, I realize it's at San Francisco. Both teams have been playing well, that's for sure. San Francisco had that 3-game lull to where they had some injuries and just some bad execution. Uh, Baltimore has spread their losses out a little bit with their last one coming in a very close game to Cleveland. And again, Cleveland, they definitely are better than what I think the record suggests. So then when we come over here and we look at just the rankings on each of these teams, they're both very good. They're both very solid. They both had what I think are solid schedules as well. That's always something to look at. But sometimes it's you look at it and say, well, the you have to play against who you play. You don't get to dictate who your schedule is. Both teams have dominated at times and looked really good. And both teams have had some losses where, they probably shouldn't have lost. That notwithstanding, I think the 5 point spread is uh, too much, especially on a game that if both teams come out and are firing, is it should be a really good and close game. Uh, the just 50-50, the scoring model does have a 27-24 victory going towards San Francisco, but like I said, then when it takes into consideration the Bayesian adjustment, it says, the Ravens have a little bit more. So again, it's mixed. Definitely, I encourage you to be following the weather, following any updates to injury, things along those lines. But this really should be a really good game. I think the 5.5 point spread is uh, uh, probably having to do to some of the big victories that San Francisco has put out here, scoring a lot of points, looking very dominant. So, but the numbers are showing that they're not as dominant as those two 40 point victories that they've had here recently. And then of course you had the early one in the year as well. So let's take a look at some of the numbers here. Baltimore, they're a strong running team. They put a lot of emphasis on having running backs, having Lamar Jackson run, but you've got a very strong traditional running game over here with San Francisco. That should be a lot of fun. Both of these teams are going to rely on that balanced attack of being able to pass and run when they need to. The thing that you have to look at with San Francisco is between Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, they really have a lot of weapons that you can just name off the top of your head. Whereas I think Lamar Jackson is that primarily that guy who's going to open things up for Baltimore, but they've got a lot of other really good players, and I think they got a really strong physical line up front as well. Let's come over here to the right. Both of these teams have a lot of explosion. I think San Francisco is more explosive, but then you've got some issues over here with Baltimore with protecting the quarterback. And again, both of these teams have some really good pass rushers as well. Uh, both teams are, you know, they definitely control the ball pretty good. That's not to mean that turnovers don't happen. The pros, they're really good at forcing the interceptions and the fumbles. Those aren't just oopsies where they drop it. That's where the defense is targeting the ball and very good at that. So, like I said, both of these teams are evenly matched. The model swings kind of both ways to say, and all of the answers from the model come out to say is it should be a close game. The only factor I always wonder at this time of the year is how motivated are these teams to play versus get healthy because they've secured their spot in the playoffs, which can really undermine the competitive nature of this game. So anyhow, if you like what you listen to, click like and subscribe. If you've got a question or comment, drop me a note.